Hello there, my name's Oscar Cooper and you have reached the god tier of roguelike lists. This has got the best of probably the last 5 years and I have tried to avoid any repeats. This is my third roguelike list. Very quick shout out to all who viewed the most recent 5 more video. I'm going to take the hint on the numbers there, but again, awesome to get some feedback so quickly from you guys. And of course, February is looking its usual self. I wanted to put forward a really cool YouTuber I found called Best Indie Games. I love this guy. He's at 52,000 subscribers already. He's only been doing it 4 years. He covers some really good games. He's probably the guy to go to for good indie content. Talking of good indie content, let's talk about Astro Crops, relatively new on the PlayStation Store, and a game I've spoken about before, and a game that presents a lot of colours, strange music, and beautiful art. It's got some of the best pixel art I've seen in a while, and it's got a great idea of managing a small plot of land that does increase, gathering seeds from downed enemies, and basically getting all these cool perks and upgrades to increase your gardening badassery. Spawning in some really crazy looking bosses at random as well. It's got reroll on a lot of the bosses, and they come at night time or on a seasonal level. You see on the top right that you've got like a sun and moon, and that interchanges. Winter being one of the hardest levels, it works through from spring. I'm going to try and cover as much as I can on the meta mechanics of these games, because I find that very important with a rogue like or light, is that it's got some enjoyable layered perks and upgrades and unlockables as you continue to die and open up the game. And this one really excels on that front with an amazing hub filled with some really zany characters. As you probably noticed, it is essentially a twin stick with some resource management, and you've got one map as well, but it is opened up by getting these bridge parts that then give you access to different seeds. Now the seeds are the crazy thing because they come in different sizes and they all offer a different set of currency for stuff back at the store, and some of them actually grow life hearts for you, and you can fertilize stuff, which I only found out about pretty recently, and that's that funny brain looking, I've got 33 of them there at the bottom. You feed them to the plants to increase their growth, and you can also water them. I managed to get a cow unlocked. You can see where this game is going. Craziness in a good way. The weapon differences and the perks are what really sell it for me. There's this thing that you can get that goes into the ground that allows you to teleport straight back to the garden. It's got some very clever meta that increases the enjoyment of that twin stick gameplay, which can get a bit mundane if you are a fan of twin stick shooters like I am. Having that injected into a roguelike can and can't work. Its modern take on the roguelike really attracts me, alongside that soundtrack and awesome look. This game is definitely worth having on your roster. Atomic Crops. Neon Abyss, again pretty new, and again a game that features an awesome dance floor in the communal hub. There's another game that's got a bar in it as well. I really think that's one of the essentials of having a great retro game, is a brilliant hangout spot. Now this is, and I'm going to bill it as Enter the Gungeon as a side-scroller platformer, and it's because it's got that 360 degree aiming on the other analog stick. And this is a really interesting mechanic. I've been thinking about this loads. Your right thumb is occupied with that analog stick. You can't go to X for jump, so your jump is over on L2 or wherever you want to put it on the shoulder buttons. I found that very difficult at the beginning. It's hard to maintain that aiming whilst jumping around, and the game asks you to jump around a hell of a lot, but after about 40 minutes to an hour it just sticks and you're like, yes, I understand how this works. And wow, it's a very, very underappreciated modern roguelike this. Its gimmick is eggs that drop out of chests or from wherever, sometimes bosses, and they queue up, right, and they hatch. And I was reading up on it, and you have to have them hatch if you're like, there's more chance of the egg hatching if you've got full life, but there's a hit and miss with them. Late game, you'll see a trail of eggs behind players that are like 10-15 long. It is a cool idea. Some of them add buffs on health, others will be like a little firing non-player character. So there's a lot to like here, and it does a brilliant job on boss reroll and variation type. I mentioned Enter the Gungeon because there's an almost identical map system with teleport. In actual fact, you cannot teleport whenever you want. You need to get to a teleport node, but it's got that classic grid system that shows you what you've explored and what you haven't. And it also has a key system to do with purple jewels and a standard grenade and standard key unlock on the chests. There is so much to see in this game. It's got an incredible soundtrack and look and feel, and it is from Team 17 and very modern feeling. As far as perks go, from the get-go, after you die from that hub, the only stuff I'm feeling around with is differences in character. And I've read up on some of the characters having better incubation ratios, and there's another starter weapon unlocks, that sort of thing. So it's got all the classic tropes, it's got the look and the sound and the longevity to be a damn good modern roguelike. Neon Abyss. Gunfire Reborn, a first-person shooter roguelike. Brilliant idea this, online multiplayer, no couch co-op unfortunately, but I've just opened up a second character. Oh my god, has it changed things up, and they keep adding newer and newer characters. I've had this game since about 2019 and it's been in early access for a while, but they've coming to the end of stuff now and it's really looking like a full-blown game. I enjoy this game so much. It has got a Borderlands feel mixed in with a Diablo style loot system that's got that beautiful roguelike layeredness to it. There is so much going on here in the right places. It's got that tree in-game upgrade system. What I mean is not from the menus, actually when you're playing levels. You get the opportunity to choose a number of different directions for your perk type. You can stick with it being focused on your special move. You can start looking into synergies with different weapon types and elements, so things start getting really serious when you can marry up certain buffs with certain weapons. So there's that element of getting the ideal build, having those RNGs work in your favor, and of course discovering secret levels that allow that upgrade system to accelerate before you get to a boss. That's a very, very frequently used gaming mechanic, and one I don't mind. This game's kind of its own thing because it offers a 4-player online multiplayer PvE mode. It's like a Borderlands-y Overwatch synergize with your ults against the enemy setup, right? You know what I mean? You can choose a character that actually complements another and start all kinds of madness. I never have ever explored it because I've only ever played this on Steam and don't have, an online community to play with. So I'm just dying for it to come out on the PlayStation 4. Please guys, bring this out on the PlayStation 4. I can straight up think of 4 people that immediately need to play this online. No boss reroll, but it does offer the opportunity for you to fully explore an area before going to a boss, and will give you challenges and quite ad hoc events that never seem to repeat. So you're always on a back foot going into a room and finding out what the game's going to offer you. And of course the ults and specials from these 2 characters that I've got so far are very different. One offers a grenade and a dodge. The other character is less evasive with a very large and aggressive grenade move coupled with a twin firing mode, just like in Borderlands 2 with the little psycho dwarf character. I think I'm up to about 30 hours with this game, and it is hard. It does push back. It is one of the harder on the list, but interesting that they've actually buffed some weapons and reduced a lot of the incoming attacks. It's had some tweaks to it that have really refined that difficulty level. When I first got access to this game, it was almost impossible to get to level 2. Now level 2 is like an everyday thing, and I'm seeing more and more of the game, but trust me, this game, when it wants to, can get nasty. And I think the developers may have been going for that system with the enemies and online and multiplayer, i.e. having somebody watching you out front and looking after your rear, because there's just so much going on your own. But do not be put off by that. Its difficulty is now pitch perfect, and I very much enjoy getting as far in the game as I possibly can on my own, and I've still got 2 new characters to unlock. I personally think Gunfire Reborn is yet to have its day, and when it goes on Switch and all the consoles, it's really going to become popular. So you heard it here first. This game is going to be massive. Not going to say the game's name. You saw those red percentages at the start of the video. But this has got some of the System Shock 2 developers on it, and the Bioshock people. God damn, does it show. I think this game is ignored way too much. Its premise is that you're a convict. You spawn in convicts. Basically, every time you die, you get a new convict. They come with some minor traits, but the focus is really on the craft or derelict ship or space hulk even that you land on within the map screen. And you have to go through and extract all of the loot and fuel and sandwiches from the ship itself, all while avoiding or killing the aliens that are on there that all speak with northern accents. I've covered this game before in a review. Strangest thing happened the other day. I watched that review because someone put a comment on it that I'd got the regional accent wrong when I was doing my Darth Vader impression. I'm from Suffolk, alright? So you don't need to start lecturing me about accents. Plus, you need to go and watch The Dig on old Netflix. Cut to hell, boy, that's a good film. Can we get back to the meta? So it's about constructing weapons and making badassery to take onto the vessel to make sure that you can definitely kill everything and that you can make your way back out. One of the coolest weapons is a little remote control cat that's like a robot, and it's kind of the mascot for the series itself as well. So I don't necessarily affiliate amazing sci-fi scary atmosphere with roguelikes, and I can with this. Its production is so well done. Its sound recording and character voicing and just nightmare fuel that you discover on these vessels is brilliant. It's also got loads of hacking in it. Just like on Bioshock, you can get the turrets working for you. Those little cats never get boring. Some of the enemies will be OP, so playing this brilliant game of cat and mouse with locking the doors and just running for your goddamn life, it's amazing this. So much more than an indie roguelike, it really is. Void bastards. Alright, I said it, demonetize me.
Life support systems critical.
Next up we've got Star Renegades. This is available on Steam, hasn't made the jump over to PlayStation 4 yet. It is on Switch, though I've got a mate playing it on Switch. Abs, I'm sorry about that. Nancy, this might be one for you because it's got a Darkest Dungeon vibe with camping and leveling before you go for a boss, like we saw in some of the previous titles. But this one's done it with a old school Final Fantasy vibe mixed in with some 16 to 8-bit art. It's fantastic. Sporting a timeline a bit like Child of Light and some of the old school JRPGs that we grew up with, but giving us this retro art and soundtrack and character type and moves that just blow the mind. It looks and sounds fantastic. From the moment I saw this game, I knew it was for me. Everything is here from your classic turn-based JRPG setup, with placement playing quite a big part, and of course who you select as a party and increasing the size of that party. You do start with a party of 3 and you have a sort of playground level 1 to take the first boss out in. Then you get given a 4th party member and the luxury to choose what type of member that is, and there's some awesome range dudes. There's a guy that just restores everybody's shields, and everybody ranks up and transforms into this cool cutler, which I love. And their moves become even more badass. So there's so much longevity with the game loop and reward system. Also sporting an epic bar scene with a pixelated dog and a lot of your characters sitting there chilling and drinking. I think that's an essential for any hub, any roguelike, to have a bar scene, because I sure as hell ain't got one in my local. Is it hard, Coop? Yes. Oh my god, it's tear-inducingly hard. In actual fact, it plays like it's not a roguelike, and then you die, and it's permadeath, and everything is gone. All you've got is your character selection at the hub, so it does hurt, but it's rewarding and fantastic fun. Star Renegades. I got Risk of Rain 2 on the week of its early access, and funnily enough, it was the same month that Anthem came out, and I did a video comparing this to Anthem. This is so much better than Anthem, even in hindsight, this long after Anthem's release. Risk of Rain 2 is a bit of a mammoth, and it's kind of getting recognised for it now because it's in completion stage, and good god, nothing on this list is as hectic as this one. It's amazing, and of course its original was amazing, and a side-scrolling couch co-op game. Very cheap, smaller title that I had on the channel frequently, and of course it's very famous for having a wealth of upgrades and stackable upgrades. You see the symbols across the top of the screen, classic a la roguelike, but this one has got the biggest bin of weapons and pickups I've ever seen. The boss fights and rerolls are just epic in scale and mind-blowing, and some of the animations and differences on weapon type that you get, and the vast differences between the character selection. That's something very important with Risk of Rain 2, is that the division between each character is like having 4 separate games. That's only the stuff I've got unlocked. They are amazing. As mentioned before, I kind of use Risk of Rain as a sort of benchmark for amazing progression, unlocks, all this cool logbook stuff. Weapon types, hotkey management, enemy variation and attack pattern, and of course the environment is so speckled with pickups and drops and a currency system that's got such a great payoff. With the Risk of Rain series, you always had to proactively instigate the boss, so one of your main objectives within this map is to look for the switch essentially for the boss and then go about getting leveled to take them on. It's got a great idea with secret mechanics and reaching special totems that take you to like some sort of spiritual place. It's a whole new ball game, Risk of Rain 2, when it comes to complicated, rewarding visuals and mechanics. All the big name reviewers have folded on giving this game as much credit as it deserves. It's one of the few on the list that's actually got properly recognised and has a very healthy co-op online mode, which I've also yet to try. Still on the one player, still loving it since early access. Risk of Rain 2, I love ya. And on the subject of love, one of my favourite games of all time, Children of Morta. Now, we're not at the end of the list, because normally this game's at the end of the majority of my list. That might explain some of those red arrows. But it's up there with the all-star list of 2-player couch co-op roguelikes, a bit like Enter the Gungeon. This one is a massive player on that front. One player wise, I have to put it up against a lot of other stuff, but when it comes to couch co-op, this is head and shoulders above the majority that's on the market. It's also sporting some of the best visuals I've seen in an indie game pixel art. It's on Unity, but it really has a shine to it that I just have not seen anywhere before. It's incredible. Diablo meets Dark Souls is my pitch. You cannot take more than a couple of hits before you're in trouble. You have got to dodge, you have got to defend. Using your specials will save your life. You are constantly running from death. This is not your normal ARPG. Rhythm of the hotkey management and knowing what enemy types do and how they're going to do it, and of course working your way around a procedurally generated map with all rewards and mini bosses, mid-level lore, everything like that. You just never have the same game twice, and the character difference, don't even get me on that. The range characters are completely different to all of the melee tank characters. Also got one of the most impactful out-of-game skill trees and in-game skill trees I've ever come across. You can see your 3 hotkeys can have a little rune on them that is temporary and runs out, but it will vastly change how that attack occurs and what buffs you get from it. It never stops re-rolling the difference on those, and of course your actual base level skill tree that you have on the main menu never leaves, and you just get stronger and stronger, which I also love. That's what the currency points to. From like 35 years of gaming, I've sort of begun to realise that people want different things from different games. Not everybody's idea of a good game is someone else's. For me personally, this ticks everything for me, and it was the ideal thing that I'm looking for when it comes to a particular game of this type. It's incredible and totally rocked me and the channel, and anyone who doesn't own this game and is remotely interested in these visuals, music and gameplay style should get straight on the case and purchase this game. A lot of people ask me about the story and whether it's rich enough, and the family and all the lore behind them and additional characters, and the answer is it's got it all. Children of Morta, what a stunner.
Warmth of body, relaxation of muscle, and calmness of mind, all mixed together with a hint of drowsiness. A better wine had never been created. All were merry, all were happy.
Yep, as the late great Nelly once quoted, it is getting hot in here, and yes, this is Dead Cells, and we're coming up to some of the finest roguelites of all time on Earth. The dominating Metroidvania, indie retro looking roguelike on the market at the moment is kind of Dead Cells for me. I know Hollow Knight's out there, and Hollow Knight isn't on this list. As explained at the start, I did cover it extensively on one of my top roguelike lists. It's time for Dead Cells to shine. I think it still goes up against some of those modern games we've been talking about. Timeless style and design, and of course that amazing system with all currency and upgrades, and a build system on your skills, which gets so good. I love the speedrunning angle to Dead Cells. If you don't know, it offers you the chance to do the level in 30 seconds, and then I think there's a 2-minute mark and then an 8-minute mark. So if you rush through things and get to the end, you get better rewarded. Not a lot of games encourage that, but speedrunning or taking this game really quickly is so much fun. There's a rhythm to it, and then it will just switch on you and say, by the way, there's loads of platforming now. Time for you to get impaled by a giant steel testicle. I think this game's got a really solid idea with choosing a direction in what build to go for. It does offer a shield and parry build, and of course the out and out aggressive and freeze build. You can use a lot of elements, you can electrify water, you can put down these traps. Everything is there in the right place to make this a completely dominating epic roguelike. Having the unlock perks in those jars at the beginning when you run through, and of course having random drops on elite enemies, gives the game enough spice and incentive to make sure that you keep going back to it to open up new stuff. By the way, the DLC is currently under discount on store. There's 2 and they're awesome. I recommend them. I owned this game twice because of its popularity on Steam. I got to it as early as I could. It was something that just caused this massive fuss, and you had that stupid IGN review come out. Actually, I owned this game 3 times. I own it on Switch, PlayStation 4 and PC. That's testament to how good it is. I need it whenever I go travelling. I want it on my laptop, and of course I need it on a PlayStation 4 Pro because I wanted to see if it was massively enhanced on frame rates and visuals, and yeah, there is some, but it's on a par with the PC version, obviously. Footage you're looking at now is actually PlayStation 4 Pro. Frame rates do suffer a little bit on the Switch, but don't let that put you off having this game as a portable. I think it is a perfectly portable game because it's so dip and dip out of, and you've got so much luscious layered stuff to unlock that it's just worth having all the time, everywhere. Dead Cells. So it's my first card deck based roguelike on the list, on the channel, and in my game collection. It was something I could not ignore. Slay the Spire was such a big thing that I just had to have a peek, and once you've peeked at it, you're in deep. Turn-based, obviously, and at the end of a match or fight, you win a card. Sometimes you get to choose up to 3 cards, and you also have shops on your route that you can purchase from a plethora of cards. Now, what this points to is that you can, again, go for a deck build. You can start saying, I'm going to concentrate on element, poison, electricity. The different characters, 4 of them unlocked in the end, have just game-changing abilities that don't relate to any of the other characters. They are standalone, amazing game models in themselves. Cards obviously cost action points, which are down there in the bottom left. Some characters have a 4-slot action point capability, and others are slightly more harder hitting with only 3, but maybe some more devastating cards. Some cards don't even cost any action points to use, so you have this ability to extend your turn by picking cards that may allow you to draw another one. It's really cool. It's like a combo meter, and you just stay in the game and keep smashing the enemy down. The more you play the game, the more cards get thrown into your bin of potential draws at the end of a match, and this is targeted to each character. You don't see the different cards repeat. You only see the defense and attack cards repeat, which are the base level for every character. The directions that you can take this game in are so mind-blowing, and when you look at the menu and go through every card you've found, it's 200 plus, and they're all ranked and tiered. Purple cards do massive stuff, and all the animations are individual to each card, and the enemy types are re-rolled and beautifully drawn. I love that pastel artwork on the enemies. You're also looking at a stacked relic system, which is up there on the top left of the screen. You get rewarded these at random or after big boss fights or after doing a level, and they again re-roll completely random. There's loads of them, and they can be massive in regards to what they offer you on attack pattern. Looking at risk of rain level of unlocks just on the relics themselves, and you've got potions and stuff that you can throw down at any point in a fight. So much to do, and man is it satisfying when you get things right. I actually managed to get hold of this game pre-owned on the PlayStation 4 and physical for like £9, so keep an eye out for it. It's available digital and on all platforms. Slay the Spire, what a beautiful roguelike. Scourgebringer. Next up, a real back to basics for the genre. Scourge, I googled it, self-mortification to do with punishment, preferably with something made of leather. The bullet hell, platform hell, trapped in a room, gotta survive and murder everything at high speed. Brilliant game. Exploration is actually quite key for this one, with the maps offering a power-up somewhere, a sub-boss somewhere, and a main boss hidden up, and you have to do the sub-boss first to get the key to the main boss. Also a combo meter and a shop and a blood currency and a tree at the beginning that offers you a lovely upgrade system. This game is only half unlocked for me. I'm starting to see a little bit of payoff when it comes to investing in these funny eyeball things that you find at the shop next to that tree. There is a deflect move that I have now, which is essential for one of the bosses. It just sends the bullets back. It's very difficult to time. It is basically a parry, and the window for it isn't exactly colossal, so there is some skill involved, and getting your head around this jumping and dodging and mixing that into your combat is so enjoyable. Every enemy needs to be read and worked out. There's a big amount of trial and error with this one, but I don't care because it looks and sounds so beautiful that going back to this is just a pleasure. Mixing things up is and isn't there. I'm struggling with this game. I've got to level 2, I've got past the first boss, but I don't see any shortcut to that system from the get-go after dying midway through level 2. I know there will be one, but I need to work harder for it. But the progression and the addition of this combo meter is giving me more currency within level 1, so I'm now starting to really level up before taking the fight to the big boys. Its use of range is also extremely clever. It doesn't saturate you with bullets, so using that projectile weapon is kind of a get out of jail. You will go to something that you couldn't reach with a jump for it, but the refill on it is perfectly pitched. It isn't something you fall back on and use too much, and I think that's important. I don't want this to be a Neon Abyss. This should be about jumping, running and slashing in midair, and it has that Messenger feel and that NES Batman original feel. It's all there for me. It's a real perfect place for a lot of these mechanics to be. Its use of a heavy soundtrack also works for me. I love how it switches it on and off when things get really hectic on screen. And I also love its ideas with its relentless difficulty. This one is one of the more unforgiving on this list, but it's got it right because don't imagine there being massive amounts of levels. So seeing this whole game in its entirety needs to have some suffering put at the front of it. So we only have one more title, and thank you very much guys for following me up to this point. Scourgebringer is at number 2 and one of my most beloved modern roguelike games in my library. Stand by. Yes, of course, Hades is Supergiant. Supergiant's Hades is in at number 1. My favourite games of all time, and of course a real joy to see a favourite developer try its hand into a genre like the roguelike light and really excel. Well, more than excel, basically just make the game of the year for 2020. Sporting just about all of the classic tropes, the pathway to choose with the weapon unlocks and types and buffs. The gods give you different directions to go in. You can go full heal, you can be a tank, and there's also some amazing bedrock weapons that you start from, including a shield that has an excellent projectile section to it, a full-blown bow and arrow range capability, and that big melee. There's those huge fists. So much circulation when it comes to motivation to go back to this title. I think one of the stars of the game is not only the hub but the characters that exist in it, and of course the art style on everyone and the voice work and the premise of Hades. The fact that you're trying to escape this tyrannical father gives a lot in the story direction, and I think that's one of Supergiant's strength, and it's great to see it blended in to a game type like this.
What's going on there, cuz? Can I call you cuz? Got something here for you. Should make your battles to the death end that much quicker.
One of the killers is that it's not 2-player and that it's not available on any Sony platform yet. That's a bit of a worry. I don't know if there was a payoff to keep this away from Sony because it's on Switch and on Xbox, but I have to apologise to everybody. I did think it had made it over to the PlayStation 4 this year. We had a roadmap for February, hasn't happened. So I'm worried, but if you want to get into this game, you need to get it on Steam or on a Switch. Both versions work fantastically. This is the Steam version you're looking at. Really not like Supergiant to hold back from putting its games on the Sony system. Bastion and Transistor were huge on PlayStation 4, so I'm looking at that under a microscope because I don't know if it'll ever come over. I'd love to see it on the PlayStation 5 as well. This does boast a pegged frame rate on PC, but the Switch version has a few issues with chuggability. I think what we'll get from Supergiant in the long run is going to be some amazing DLC. This is not the hardest of roguelikes, and the new game plus etc. A lot of people have already got their teeth into it majorly, but some new levels, a new weapon, maybe even a new character and gods would give me such an incentive to come back to this game. I've been playing it since halfway through 2019 I think. More content and a PlayStation 4 release would be massively welcome. Guys, I am going to say thank you very much for watching the entire video. Holy crap, you did it. And if you haven't got into any of these games, I recommend them all. I know this list has only got roguelike games in it, but this is the staple of my gaming calendar, these games. These are not only my best roguelikes, but they are my most played type of game. Indie, all that retro art and amazing style is something I'm massively into. So please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and of course have a look at some of my older material. I will be putting the link in the description. I'll say thank you very much and see you down there. Hop on over to the Insta for some cool cyberpunk capture. Take care, guys.